laws is that if a child is ill, then we, even though technically today the doctor declares the baby well, we, according to Jewish law, have to wait a complete 7 days until the bris is done. So basically what we're doing is that there's a full week that the baby is healthy and sound and fine before we start the bris.
Okay, we will have some more time to discuss the ritual and the customs involved, but at this point I'd like to introduce a tape that you were kind enough to bring with you, which is a tape of an actual circumcision ceremony .
The baby. The first thing now we do is to circumcise the baby, and the reason we do that is because God commanded Abraham to circumcise his son Isaac on the 8th day of birth as an outward sign, as a symbol of the covenant that he made between himself and Abraham. And in every generation we are required in essence to renew the symbolism of the covenant between God and the Jewish people through the mitzvah of brit milah, through the ritual of circumcision, thereby welcoming this baby into that very same covenant and adding a new link to a chain that spans centuries. The second thing that we do is that every Jewish child is given a Hebrew name at birth. With a little girl, we go to synagogue on a day when the Torah is read and the rabbi names the baby. With a little boy, the naming ceremony becomes the second part of the bris ceremony, and so immediately following the circumcision, I'll confer upon the baby his Hebrew name, and Rabbi Beal will confer upon the baby a special blessing. Excuse me. Now the baby is going to cry, and everyone assumes that the baby is crying because pain is being inflicted upon him. The fact of the matter is that the foreskin of a baby of this age is relatively insensitive, and if you'll think in terms of pierced earlobes, most women tell me that they don't hurt, and you're dealing with the same kind of phenomena. Why will he cry then? Well, for a variety of reasons. First of all, he's restrained, and they don't like that. Secondly, when I cleanse the area with alcohol, it'll feel cold to the touch. They do feel body temperature differences, and they just don't like it when it's cold. Thirdly, simply handling a newborn usually causes them to cry, as anyone who's changed a newborn baby's diaper knows. And fourthly, while I'm doing the circumcision, he's not going to be able to be sucking the wine from my finger, and that's really why he's crying. So if you're having sympathy pains with the baby, just relax and be calm. He's not really perceiving any pain. I'm going to ask everyone to remain standing as you are. Those of you who are seated, please rise. It is warm in here, and if it suddenly becomes a little bit extra warm for anybody, don't be a hero and just find a chair and sit down quickly. For those of you who are squeamish, you may leave the room when I finish the Hebrew prayer. We'll finish with the actual circumcision when Israel begins this prayer in Hebrew. Zaki special one of the political which was talking inside the next which was following into Sarah CC. Eliama Kabisha Shalom Mara Minister which was following with Sasanaka on the Shalom. Shalom Razor Zakamela Mama Shala, Shifty Pass, Commission Hatsevaha. This will be to Vesafa, Kedo Shekha. Put your hands like this, please. Don't squeeze down. If you cry, you're squeezing too hard. Hold this. Israel, do you give me permission to circumcise your son, or do you want to do it yourself? Do you want me to do it, or do you want to do it yourself? Let's go.
Our son into the covenant of Abraham, our father.
Can everyone please repeat after me? As he has been entered into the covenant, so may he be introduced to the study of the Torah, to the nuptial canopy, to a life filled with good deeds. Amen. Mazel tov, and it's all over. Okay. Who's going to hold the baby during the naming ceremony? Stay right over here, please. Stay right where? Stay right where you want. Okay, I need all the other grandparents that are here, please. Hold your hand. This side. This side. Hold on.
Great-grandma, right?
You okay?
The great-grandma.
Great-grandma, come, hold on over here, please. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll now proceed with the second part of the brit ceremony, matter conferring upon the baby his Hebrew name. And when I go like this with my head, please answer amen at the end of each blessing, and let's do so enthusiastically. You can get up if you want.
L'man bris asher sam b'yisraelenu baruch atah Adonai korei sabris Yisrael Michael Yaakov ben Yisrael ben Himda Yismach Avitech Alatava Sagelim Oberfribik Makakosu Yismach Avicha Vimech Avasagel Alatecha V'ne'amar V'avalach V'rech Mizbaseses B'damoyech V'yomar Lach B'damoyech Chayi V'yomar Lach B'damoyech Chayi V'ne'amar Z'chalim B'yisrael V'atzion Elabdor Asher Kolas Atzalom Mishvasov Yitzchak V'yamidem Yaakov V'chok Yisrael B'Yisrael V'ne'amar Vayom Abraham Yitzchak ben 18 yamim kasher tzila osar Elohim Hodu l'Adonai ki tov ki li'olam chazdav Hodu l'Adonai ki tov ki li'olam chazdav Michael Yaakov ben Yisrael ben Hinda Zakatem ben Aliyah Shem Shenet Nasta Bris Ken Yikanes Vatorah L'chu Pol Masim Tovim Our God and God of our ancestors, sustain this child. We declare that his name shall be Michael Jacob Leibovich, and in Hebrew to be known as Michael Yaakov, the son of Yisrael and the son of Hinda. May his father and mother rejoice in their offspring. With love and wisdom, may they be privileged to teach him the meaning of the covenant which he has entered today, and to inspire him to practice righteousness in speech and in deed, to seek truth and the ways of peace. May this child, Michael Yaakov, grown to manhood, as a blessing to his family, the Jewish people, and all of humankind. L'man bris asher sam b'yisraelenu baruch atah Adonai korei sabris Yisrael Michael Yaakov ben Yisrael ben Hinda Yismach Avitech Alatava Sagelim Oberfribik Makakosu Yismach Avicha V'imech Avasagel Alatecha V'ne'amar V'avalach V'rech Mizbaseses B'damoyech V'yomar Lach B'damoyech Chayi V'yomar Lach B'damoyech
That was a very interesting tape that you brought, and we certainly appreciate you bringing that. One question that I'd like to get back. What is special about the 8th day? Why the 8th day, and why is the emphasis so much on the 8th day?
Well, one of the reasons that it's emphasized is that because that's what the Torah says. That's what we are prescribed to do in the Torah. There's another interesting medical aspect, however, because that is the day, the 8th day is the day when the baby's natural blood clotting mechanism, the platelets, begin to function at peak efficiency.
Isn't that interesting?
And when a circumcision is done in a hospital before that day, usually they pump the baby with vitamin K, which is the artificial clotting factor.
Uh-huh.
And so that's a natural kind of a thing.
That's very interesting. Is it painful? Because obviously that's a question everyone would be concerned about.
For the parent or the child?
For the child. Parents, they can manage. But
Well, for the parent, it's very painful. But for the child, it's not really painful. Primarily because, as I gave in the explanation, the foreskin is relatively insensitive, especially at that age and even at a little later age. And so I have been unable to detect, for example, when a baby's crying because I put the alcohol on the baby to clean him. There is no change in pitch of crying when I actually do the circumcision itself. In fact, some children actually stop crying. And so I don't think there is.
one thing I'm sure people would be concerned about is the medical aspects. Obviously, the practitioner of Mohel who does the ritual circumcision or bris, is not a doctor, especially trained for that work, but is not a doctor. How are the health requirements of the child provided both during and after the bris itself?
Okay, well, first of all, I personally was trained at Hadassah Hospital in Jerusalem with the chief Mohel of Jerusalem as my teacher, and I was very fortunate in that respect. I personally have a lot of medical background. I went to pre-med, and I went to 2 years of optometry school, which gives you a lot of the basic courses in medical school, although I'm not a doctor, and I don't pretend to be. The fact is that I do enormous number of circumcisions, and simply experience and training helps you become what you are. The utmost importance is that the baby's health is safe. Many doctors ask me to do their children's bris when even they're not Jewish, in fact, which is an interesting kind of a thing. But as a bris itself. Secondly, I am trained to take care of the baby after the circumcision, and I sit down and spend quite a large amount of time with the parents in teaching them how to take care of the baby, which is really a simple kind of a thing to do.
You mentioned that you studied in the Hadassah Hospital. What is required in terms of training and experience to become qualified as a Mohel?
Primarily what you do is that you find a Mohel who has a good reputation and knows what he's doing and has a large clientele. And you basically, if he agrees to be your teacher, you spend a lot of time with him, initially watching, and then although the bris looks like it's one fell swoop, actually there are many discrete different steps in the process. And what you do is you slowly begin to do individual steps, and as you get more experience, he lets you do the whole bris. And you do a number of them under his supervision and under a pediatrician's supervision, and then you're certified.
So there is a formal certification process?
There is a formal certification. I was certified by the Mohel who taught me and by a physician. And secondly, I was also certified by the chief rabbinate of Jerusalem concerning the laws of Judaism. There are many, many laws concerning the bris milah.
When would a parent take the first step in terms of making an arrangement with a Mohel, and how would they go about finding a Mohel, especially someone perhaps a family that is not necessarily affiliated with a synagogue? How would they go about finding who to contact and when?
Many people have started to, as soon as they become pregnant, the mother begins her search, because in case it's a boy, especially if they come into an area where they're unfamiliar with. One of the primary sources is the local rabbi. Whether you're a member of the congregation or not doesn't matter. Your own personal obstetrician and or pediatrician are good referrals. People that you know who have had a bris, and if they're satisfied.
Would you say that most pediatricians would not be shocked when requested?
Most pediatricians would not be shocked, and they usually have, I know in this area, many have myself as a referral. But most pediatricians know someone that they can refer to. All rabbis know someone. Even the obstetrician and gynecologist who normally does it on a non-Jewish baby will gladly refer the mother to someone.
There are, as I'm sure most people are aware, there are different traditions in the Jewish community. There are the Orthodox, Conservative, Reform, and some others, as a matter of fact. Are there any special concerns that people should have in that particular regard? Are there any basic differences between the traditions? What concerns should people have in that area?
Okay, primarily a bris is a bris, is a bris is a bris. I think that most Mohelim will follow the same procedure. The blessings are a standard form of blessings, and the naming ceremony is a standard naming ceremony. The procedure itself can vary slightly between an Orthodox and a conservative Mohel, but my background is Orthodox, and my teacher was an Orthodox Mohel, and I don't do anything differently at this point, and I have many Orthodox rabbis who refer to me, and so I am certainly acceptable within all of the ranges of Judaism.
One of the things that from time to time shows up in the media, someone will make some comment or report on the medical aspects of the circumcision procedure. What is your opinion, based on your experience and what you've read, on some of the various comments that are made? What do you feel about the medical concerns?
I think you're talking about the medical community itself.
Yes.
I think that there was a time a number of years ago when there was a great push by the medical community itself to have circumcisions. Not necessarily ritual circumcision, but circumcision, because there were papers and books written that it's a healthy kind of a thing. I think the doctors have...
During World War II, it was...
Correct. And I think that the doctors, the medical profession, have retracted from that to a certain degree. On the one hand, primarily because doctors are simply very leery at this point of simply doing surgery for the sake of surgery, unnecessary surgery. However, all of the reports and the doctors that I've spoken to, when they talk about it's not necessary to have a circumcision, all of them add the sentence that they're not talking about a ritual circumcision. That a ritual circumcision should be done. They're talking about plain, regular circumcisions. The fact, however, is that there are a number of children who, regardless of what religion, would have to be circumcised. And within the medical community at this point, there is kind of a backlash. You shouldn't have regular circumcisions within the non-Jewish community. Nevertheless, there is no known case of penile cancer in a circumcised male. And people have to understand that not only the Jews circumcise their children, but you have all of the Muslims circumcise their children as well, and that involves huge populations. And there has never been a case of penile cancer in a circumcised male.
We have just a few minutes left. One final question that I would like to ask of you. What would you say to the family who their first child is born, they accept the responsibility of having the child participate in a bris, but they're concerned? What would you say to them?
Okay. I think that concern is natural and normal, Jack. When a mother takes her child for the very first time to a doctor for an injection, when she's a nervous wreck. And so this would fall under the same category. I think what they should do, however, is make certain that the mohel that they get is a well-trained mohel. And they can find out from their rabbi, from their doctor, or from other people who have used that particular mohel and are satisfied. And I think once they do that and do the basic ground homework, they really don't have anything to worry about.
The history, the statistics, all support...
The statistics are, I have had absolutely, really, no problems when it came to circumcision.
You haven't lost the parents yet.
I haven't lost a parent. Grandfather maybe, but a parent, no.
Well, I have to say, we really need some more time, but I think that, especially with the tape that you brought us as an example of what a circumcision ceremony, a bris, looks like, gave it a certain sense of reality, which I think our viewers will appreciate. Also, I think the idea that you have been able to discuss some of the medical concerns, the medical aspects of it, based on your training, based on your experience, has been a very reassuring part of the discussion, too. And I certainly appreciate your coming here. I know that when we first spoke about the possibility of putting this program on, there were some questions and perhaps even some concerns. But I think that the fact that you've come here, discussed something that is probably very strange to many people, but I think it's a little less strange now. And I think that we have done community service in that sense, and we appreciate your coming here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.